Widgery from mattwidgery.com. In today's episode, I'm going to be saying potentially a sad and fond farewell to one of my favourite cameras of all time, the Ricoh GR. You've seen it on the show a bunch of times, and I've mentioned it in passing in a load of different videos. But today it's going to have its own swan song. I wanted to talk about it a little bit more in depth because it is not going to be in my collection for very much longer. I'm actually going to be selling this camera, and I wanted to tell you why that is, what I'm moving forward to, and just some really interesting things that as I see how photography is changing and the cameras that we're using are changing as we sort of move through the 21st century at such a pace. The camera's changing all the time to getting more and more advanced in the features that they offer. So first of all, let's just have a little look at this camera. This is the GR, Ricoh GR, sometimes referred to as the GR5 because it's the fifth of the digital lineup of these cameras that Ricoh made. Preceded before that, in the 90s, they were actually 35mm compact cameras, and have been favourite of street photographers such as Daido Moriyama in Japan, for example, who used these cameras, in the film days, and more recently people like Eric Kim, who uses these or has used these for his street photography as well. The reason being that they're very small, they're very light, they're professional grade cameras, they have a full magnesium body, they have a very good 18mm lens, it's a crop censored APS-C sensor, which is a very big sensor for the size of the camera that it is, and that gives you a 35mm equivalent of just about 28mm, so you get a nice wide angle of view, which is favoured by myself as a street photographer, and sort of lots of other people who like that. There is a crop mode built into it as well. If you want to shoot it to the equivalent of 35mm, it's able to do that really easily at the press of a button as well. So there's lots and lots that go in with it. You have a little pop-up flash that's built in. That's the little lens that comes out. There's a built-in sort of button for doing hyper-focusing or zone focusing. There's a link up on screen for the video, tells you how to do that, which is nice. You can take off this little ring at the front there and you can attach lens hoods. You can attach a wide angle converter to bring this from 28 to 21mm. You have a video mode in there. It's very, very clear and crisp, the video that's in there, although it doesn't have any manual features or anything like that. It's fairly basic. But as a stills camera, it's incredible. You've got a little button on little command dial on the front. You've got a little command rocker on the back, which also presses in. You can scroll through different modes. You can use this little wheel on the top there to set your standard sort of manual shutter speed, aperture, program, automatic, things like that. But then there are also three presets that you can dial into that as well. So I have one set up for doing kind of night photography, which has a higher ISO built in and things like that. There are also various built-in effects that you can use. If you're shooting JPEG, you can apply various filters and black and white modes and things like that to it. Although I shoot RAW, and this camera outputs in DNG, which is the RAW format that Photoshop use. So and Lightroom. So it's very good for just being able to upload your pictures directly into that. There's even a little hot shoe on the top there as well. And I've used my Yongnuo 560 that actually just clips straight into there, and you can use a full size flash on that. Rather than the little pop-up thing. It looks a bit ridiculous and it's very top heavy, but at a pinch you can do it. So there's a stack of things about this camera which I love. The build quality of it is absolutely fantastic. It's a first-rate quality camera from the point of view of build, and I love it. I love it dearly. I've loved it since the very first moment I picked it up and took it out of the box and fired a shutter with it, and it's so quiet. I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up. Oh, there you go. It's telling me I can't record because I'm in some. I haven't got a SD card in there. But let's see if we can get it to. Yeah, trust me, it's very quiet. It's not doing it at the moment because there isn't any memory in there. I haven't put an SD card in it. But it's really, really quiet. So if you wanted to take candid shots of people without them being aware and kind of interrupting the scene of what's going on, then you can do that too. It's great in low light. You can shoot this comfortably at 3200 and even push it a bit beyond. I think natively it goes up to 25,600, but I wouldn't. But certainly at 1600, 3200, it's really, really good. So, why am I getting rid of it? Well, the only reason that I'm getting rid of it is because I'm just about to take delivery of a Fuji X Pro 1, which has with it two lenses. One is the 18mm f2, and the other one is the 35mm f1.4. So as much as I love using this camera, having that fixed 28mm equivalent lens, so 18mm lens in what it says on the side of the barrel there, is a bit limiting for some of the stuff that I want to do with it. It's almost a victim of its own success. I was so excited by carrying this thing around and being able to have it with me all the time that I wanted to do more and more stuff with it. Not just sort of being able to take it out and do street photography, but other things too. And if I was at events and things like that, not necessarily as a professional, but just to be able to take pictures, or family occasions and things like that. This was the camera that I wanted to take rather than the big Nikon D300. The other thing that because it might not just be this camera that's going, that's the thing, it may well be in time that it becomes a replacement for the D300 as well. I love the D300, it's absolutely brilliant, but the limitations for me, I shoot a lot of music, I shoot live music, concerts and things like that, which happen at night where the light is terrible, and a lot of the time I'm really pushing the D300 to its limit. You can get up to about 1600 ISO with that camera, which means that at f2.8 with some of the big like the 80 to 200 that I run on that, for example, I can get to about 200th of a second usually, but not that much above it, and that's fine for a lot of bands that are sort of leaping about a little bit. But if you get a band that's leaping around a lot, I was shooting a band the other day, and the lead singer was really sort of moshing and headbanging a lot like that. I just wasn't able to keep him still, so that was kind of more of a problem. And so I've been thinking for a while about upgrading the D300, and one of the routes that I was looking at doing was going down the full frame route, just having a bigger sensor that would get more light in it. The more modern sensor anyway allows more light to come into the camera. The obvious choice would be something like a D800, D600, D700, something like that. So that was really what I was looking at. But what I'm going to do, in actual fact, to start with, and I'm going to give it an experiment anyway. I'm going to get this X Pro 1, and I'm definitely going to use it as a replacement for this. It'll easily replace this because the 18mm lens, the 18 f2 is this has got an 18mm 2.8. Both are equivalent of 28mm, as I said, in 35 frame format, so it'll give me that same look. And then I've also got a 35 1.4, which is the equivalent of about a 50. So that gives me a little bit more flexibility. I do also have a bunch of other lenses that I can use adapters, like I can put my Nikon lenses on there, for example. I can put like these on there. This is going to be perfect for it. This is a 55 1.8. It's the very sharp SMC Takuma lenses for the Pentax cameras, and it's one that I use on I use it on my Pentax S1. It also fits onto the Spotmatic that you can see in the background there, but it's very small and light, and so it's going to be perfect to use in conjunction with the X Pro 1. And this will give me an equivalent of something around 80mm, so it could be useful for doing portraits and things like that, and it's also very fast. I will need to look into getting something like the equivalent of a 70 to 200 2.8 or 80 to 200 2.8, something like that, simply because when you're shooting bands up on stage, that really is my go-to lens. I use it so much. I do use it for portraits and things as well, but there's lots of other things that you can use with that. I mean, I've got a 135 version of this, which is also 1.8, so I've got that covered. But having the flexibility of a zoom when you've got somebody on stage just running about, coming in and out of frame, I think having the 70 to 200 2.8 equivalent is really necessary. So if I can get that sorted out, it may well be that the X Pro 1 can replace not only this, but also the D300. And now that would be really interesting. There's a few photographers I know that are doing this, that are sort of, moving across to mirrorless. I do know the limitations in terms of the X Pro 1 in terms of its autofocusing. I'm not going into this blind. Although there are firmware updates, it's still a contrast detect based focus system. It's not going to be as snappy as something like phase detect. It's not going to be as versatile as phase detect, which is what the SLRs use. So I'm aware of that. But the other thing is that the X Pro 1 with the latest firmware update, which is 3.01, you do get focus peaking in there as well. So you can actually manually focus a lot simpler. And actually, I mean, to be honest, with the D300 and the 80-200, which is an older lens anyway and hasn't got great autofocus, on stage when there's a lot of spotlights coming from behind the act on stage and behind the singers and whatever, I do end up using manual focus with the Nikons as it is. I've actually got pretty used to being able to focus manually the 80-200, fully zoomed in at 200, with a singer with a spotlight behind them and there's kind of very little light on their face, just being able to sort of focus in on their eye and wait for that little bit of light to reflect into them and then get the picture. And I've got pretty adept at doing that, so I really don't mind having a go at doing that with with the X Pro 1. And if it's going to have a little bit of assistance for me, unlike the Nikons, which don't have any kind of focusing plane, there's no split focusing screen or anything like that with them, I think I'll be okay with that, but I will report back. So watch this space, people, because I will be documenting this transition and giving you feedback and update as I go through this and actually attempt to use an X Pro 1 as my everyday professional camera. So that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. This will be on Gumtree fairly soon, so if you're in the Cambridge area, have a look on that. I will be selling it on, it'll be up in the next day or so. If you are in the market for either this particular one, I'll do you a good deal, or if you are watching this some way down the future and this one's already been sold, I would definitely recommend this camera to anybody as being a fantastic street photography camera. The only thing, as I say, for me is I want something that's got interchangeable lenses and has the potential maybe to be a replacement for the D300. I didn't mention the other thing. One of the reasons why I wanted to change, actually, well, two reasons. One, okay, there's a big weight thing, and I'm not so much bothered about that. But the D300 with a bag of lenses, and usually the D51 in there as well, as a backup camera and a tripod, and lights and light stands and things like that. It does weigh in pretty heavy, so obviously weight is a factor. But the main thing for me is ISO capability, and the files that I've seen that come off the X Pro 1 up to 6400 are astonishing. And frankly, because I use a lot of kind of gritty black and white stuff, at 12,800, 25,600, whatever, they look bloody good, actually. So that's the real thing for me, is to be able to have a faster shutter speed in low light in order to capture faster bands leaping about on stage and things like that. So it's quite a practical reason for it. So that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe. It helps me a huge amount if you subscribe on the little button below, or actually what we'll do, we'll stick one up there, so if you can just press that and subscribe, that's it. No, you're still here and you haven't pressed the button. There we go, that's it. Thank you very much. Much appreciated for subscribing. Brilliant. All right, thanks very much. See you again soon. Cheers.